Hey guys, welcome back to another Virgo Girl recommendation. And today's recommendation is none other than Never Too Much, the Luther Vandross documentary. You guys, I'm pumped up for this one. Let me tell you. Luther Vandross, the documentary, first of all, can I just say that it took me forever to be able to watch it. I feel like I'm late to the game to even know that this documentary had came out. I kind of heard people a little bit like kind of whispers about it, but I feel like I should have heard more about this, which is also why I'm doing the video. I think more light needs to be shined on this. And why is it so hard to find it? Like, come on. This is like a really, really, really good documentary. So first off, I guess it was in theaters first. I honestly did not know about that. Secondly, I saw that it was on CNN, which, hello, I wasn't really sure how to even get to be able to watch it. I tried to sign in. It didn't allow me to watch it. It just kept saying playback failed or something like that. So I was trying to figure out, okay, well, how can I purchase this? And it was just like so many loops. So I finally figured out, just in case you're trying, the way I was able to get to it was through Hulu. And you have to have Hulu like live, I guess, like a Hulu live subscription in order to watch it on CNN. Now, others of you who have different providers, you may have CNN. I don't know, but it's on CNN. But to get to CNN, you have to have a streaming service that offers you the opportunity to be able to get the CNN stream. Okay, that's neither here nor there. Who cares? I'm sure you guys will figure it out. I figured it out. I watched it through Hulu Live TV, just in case you want to know how to get to it. So you guys, this documentary, it was so good. Let me tell you why it was good. Because I found out so many things that I had no idea, had happened. I had no idea that Luther was a part of, etc., etc., etc. Okay, let me begin with the fact that the first thing that shocked me was that Luther Vandross was from the New York, I guess Manhattan, and then it also said that he had lived in the Bronx as well. I had no idea. First of all, let me start off by saying that I am not a person that has followed Luther Vandross in an extent manner or anything, so I don't want to say that. That's why I'm giving this disclaimer. But I mean, just on the surface, I just assume, if someone were to ask me just out of the blue before I watched this documentary where Luther Vandross was from, I would probably think somewhere in the South or something. I just would never think New York. So that was a shocker to me, that he was actually born and raised in New York, which is so awesome. That's amazing. So, and that kind of as I watched the documentary, that kind of it made sense. It made sense to why he was such a phenomenal, person, and why he was had the tenacity that he did. Because I feel like New Yorkers are just strong. They're inherently strong, just because they're from New York and what they have to deal with just being a New Yorker, just overall everyday life. And I love New Yorkers. I have so much respect for them and what they do. And just how, I don't know, I just like New Yorkers. I think they're so cool. I love the way they actually, the resilience of them, and then just how they live, just their ability to do that. And it's just, I'm just always kind of in awe of New Yorkers, just because I live in Los Angeles and I feel like they're the polar opposite of me, being from, I'm from over here and they're over there, but their life is so different, but yet I think their life is so fascinating. Anyway, moving right along. So another thing about Luther Vandross in this documentary that shocked me was that he started out on Sesame Street, which, I mean, hello, that's so shocking. Sesame Street is this TV show that I watched when I was a kid, but he started out on Sesame Street way before I was even born. But it's just amazing. Wow, that was, an episode of Sesame Street. Because when I think of Sesame Street, It's totally different. I don't ever recall seeing an episode that was anything similar to like the episode that they showed him on. So that was very fascinating, and I love that. I love that Sesame Street actually had that type of show even way back then. So that was awesome. And Luther Vandross also, another thing that I saw on the documentary. I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but at the same time, I'm so excited to kind of like talk about it. I'm going to throw a couple of things in. So if you are a person who don't like, I should say don't like, but who wants to just watch it without really knowing anything, and you don't know anything about Luther, I say just come back and watch this later. So just go watch the documentary and then come back and watch this later. This is a recommendation channel, but for this particular video, because of how the documentary was, I am going to have probably, I don't know if it's called spoiler. Maybe it's kind of spoilerish. A little bit. But at any rate, Luther Vandross, I had no idea that he was... Well, let me start off by saying Luther Vandross, I feel, is before my time in a way. I'll say in a way. The reason why I say in a way is because I think his music is timeless. Like, I can put his music on right now, and I love it. Absolutely love it in 2025. However, when Luther Vandross was out, I don't think I was old enough to appreciate his music, and I don't ever remember, like, my mom listening or, you know... I don't remember people... in my family just outright listening to Luther. I think my uncle was a fan of Luther Vandross, but I just don't recall my, you know, like people close to me, like in my household listening to him. So I didn't know a lot about him. He wasn't one of the, you know, ones that was played a lot, I don't feel, in my house that I remember. So it's like, you know how when you're young and you're a kid, you listen to kind of like what your parents listen to a little bit. So if it is older music, it's whatever the older music is that your parents are listening to. I just don't remember Luther Vandross being played in the house very much, but you know, I could be wrong, but I just don't remember him like, I just don't remember. But I do recall listening to him like as I got older, and his music, and even like now, I think his music is amazing. So when I think of Luther Vandross, I think of a house is not a home. That song, and I'm sorry if it's probably not the name of the song, but a house is still a house, but a house is not a home, you know the song, but that one, I think of that one, I think, and Here and Now, I think of the song Dance with My Father. That's not one of my favorite songs by him. I'm not like, that's, I know that's like a popular song, but that's not like a song that I really like much by him. But the ones I like A House Is Not a Home, Here and Now. There's other songs too that I can't even think of that I heard on the documentary. But I feel like his songs are so good. And the reason why they're so good is because they're well written, they're well produced, and he is such an amazing singer. His voice is just, oh my gosh. Oh, the song that I think my favorite song is the one with him and Gregory Hines, There's Nothing Better Than Love. Oh my gosh, that's such a beautiful song. I mean, amazing song. As a matter of fact, after I'm done doing this video, I think I want to go listen to that song. Oh man, that song is so amazing. So anyway, let me get back on track. I'm getting excited. Like, I love music. I love people who can sing. And it's so funny because people always say, whatever happened to people who could sing? Whatever happened to the talented people? You know what happened to the talented people and people who could sing? The internet and like TikTok and microwave culture where people want things fast. People are only looking at the aesthetics. That's what happened to good singers. There are still good people out there who can sing and, you know, who are talented. But what happens is people throw them by the wayside and they never see the light of day. Look at Luther Vandross. Do you think in 2025 he would have got the same shine as he got in the 70s and the 80s with the way the culture is today? Probably not. It's just because back then talent was more important. to those people. Don't get me wrong, it's always been about, looks is always going to be was always a thing. But back then, look at how a lot of the people looked. A lot of the people were not at all like beautiful by any means. And well, they were beautiful in their own way. I don't want to say it like that because that sounds kind of harsh, but people didn't look like people wanted talent. People wanted people who could actually sing, and then other stuff came next. Like, if you go back, just do me a favor, go back and look at a lot of the singers from the 80s, the 70s, even the 60s, and just look how they look. A lot of them look like just regular, everyday people, just average is what I'm saying. Today, people want someone that's above average first, and then the talent second, and then you get all this mediocre music, and then you get a pretty person, and then you just get, when it comes to the talent, it's like, it's not really there in a lot of cases. Now, I'm sure that happened back in the day, but the examples of that would be someone who was still talented, if you will. Like the people that they say that was, pretty and just made it. I'm thinking about someone. I'm kind of like the name that comes to mind is Madonna. But I think Madonna was extremely talented and got more talented as time went on. And it's kind of like back then, even the people that they felt that were pretty and made it, they still had a degree of talent. Talent was important back then. It really, really was. And I miss those days where people actually had talent. And for me, just going back and listening to old music, even music before I was even born, I am blown away at the vocals. I'm blown away at the talent. And I'm also so amazed at how I can sit and listen to music that's old, and I can just listen to it without skipping anything, just back to back to back. I'll give you an example too, like Diana Ross. Oh my gosh. I love listening to her music. And of course, it's like from way back in the, I don't know, what Diana Ross, I think she was the 50s, 60s. Listen to that music. It's so amazing. Anyway, let's move back on to Luther. Luther, man, let me tell you something. I want to say kudos to the documentary, Never Too Much. I think this is what I'm talking about when I say people need to make documentaries that are, interesting. Sometimes people make documentaries and they're too safe. This Luther Vandross documentary, it was respectful enough, but it still gave us what we needed. I never knew Luther Vandross was in a terrible car accident. I'm not going to go all the way into that. I'm going to save some stuff for you guys because I know you want to watch it just in case you haven't watched it. And I know a lot of people probably, because Luther Vandross came out a very long time ago. So a lot of you may not know Luther know all the details about him, but you may know his music, but not all the details about his life. And a lot of it too, the reason why we don't know a lot about his life, because the internet wasn't out back then. So a lot of stuff, back then people, if you found out something, it was kind of like, okay, rare, but they could hide stuff a lot back then because they didn't have the internet and they didn't have, all these people like snooping around in their business and finding out stuff the way we do now. They had like bloggers, but it wasn't to the degree, the way they do things now. The internet is something else, boy. You can't do anything. And then once something goes viral on the internet, it's just, that's it. Like everybody knows all your business. So it was a little different from what it was back in the day. They could hide a lot back in the day. But anyway, so Luther Vandross, I did not know that he was in an accident. I never knew that he had a stroke, which ultimately, was because of his health. I guess he had poor health. They mentioned that he had diabetes. I never knew that, which, how would I know that? But just things like that. Also a big thing I didn't know, I never knew he worked with David Bowie. David Bowie was a rock star back in the day. I'm sure you guys have heard of David Bowie. He's a famous rock star. But I don't know a lot about David Bowie, but I know that he, he's a very famous rock star, and I found out in this documentary that he was a person that was pivotal in Luther Vandross's career, I guess, early on. So Luther Vandross early on, somehow a friend of his got him into a session or something like that with David Bowie, and David Bowie immediately noticed how talented Luther Vandross was, and he was in awe. He was so impressed with Luther Vandross, and then that led to, things with Luther Vandross. Another thing I didn't know about Luther Vandross that I found out in this video was that he actually did like jingles. So he did jingles for, when I say jingles, like back in the day, they used to do jingles for commercials. I don't think they really do that much now, but so he did jingles for like Juicy Fruit Gum. I think it was some kind of pizza place or whatever. But they played the videos of him singing these jingles, and again, just pure talent. It's just amazing. He also was a background singer for so many people. He worked with, of course, David Bowie. He sang background for him. He sang background for Roberta Flack. He sang background for, I think the name of the group was Chic. You know that song, Freak Out? Yeah, that one. He sang, background for those guys. And there was other people too. I don't have to name everybody. Just go. I want you guys to watch this documentary. It's so good. Also, another thing about Luther that everyone talks about is, was he straight? Was he gay? Which for me, I guess I never really thought about it as much. It doesn't really even matter what he was really, and especially I say that because he seemed to be a person that didn't want to get into that. He didn't want to go there. He wanted to keep his life very private. And when I think about it, that was like back in the 70s, 80s. He came from a, religious, like black family. Come on, like he was really going to be comfortable coming out as a gay man back then. And even, I'm saying he's coming from a black family, but do you guys remember George Michael? Even he had difficulty, just being able to be himself. Like in the beginning, George Michael, for different reasons, but for George Michael, he was, of course, that Faith album, George Michael was drop dead gorgeous. All the women were just simply in love with him. How was he going to be able to, come out at that time? And I think that was like the 80s. With Luther Vandross, it's kind of like all the women, he made all these love songs, and all the women were like thinking, oh, he's singing these songs kind of like about me. It was kind of like that was the census. So how was he, even coming out? That's kind of like where, Patti LaBelle spoke about how they had a conversation about it. It was like he didn't want to disappoint his his female fans. I think with Luther Vandross, it was kind of like don't ask, don't tell, though. I think people, because I don't think he ever really had like a girlfriend or like a wife or anything. Not to my knowledge that he ever had. I think people, it was just kind of like, just the don't ask, don't tell with him. I didn't think people knew, but it's just nothing that people really talked about. They just wanted to enjoy his talent. And that's just the way it was. And I think that's the way he wanted it to be. So I think people just ultimately just respected him enough that they just didn't want to out him, if you will. In the documentary, they touched on that a bit, but you could just kind of tell that people still kind of skated around it. They also talked about his weight. We all know Big Luther, Little Luther. We all know that saying, Big Luther, Little Luther. There was a time where he got really small. There was a time where he was big. He always struggled with his weight. When they showed him in the very beginning, I don't know if he was about 16, but he was very young. And when he was on Sesame Street, extremely young. I'm pretty sure he was like a teenager. He was, not, he was, bigger at that time as well. I think he just struggled, but he wasn't at his height. He wasn't at the highest weight. I think he said that, I'm trying to remember, don't quote me on this, but I think he said he got up to like 300 and something pounds at one point. And he was saying how food, was his thing, which, listen, let me tell you something. I can understand that. Like, I think it's like that. I think people who don't do drugs, or who are not like drinkers or, into stuff like that, I think they do tend to go to other things. And a lot of times it's food, it could be other things, but some people, I do notice that people who, um, well, first of all, I think we all have some type of vice to cope with things in life. I think it can even be going to the gym. I don't think that would be a vice, though, would it? I guess if you did it excessively, but is that really a vice? I don't think that's a good example. But I think, I shouldn't say everyone, I think most people, because if you can go to the gym and that's your vice, that might be a good thing. So I don't want to put that out there. That's amazing, actually. That'll be a great way to deal with stress and, troubles and depression or whatever. However, I think that the way I see it, I think people who like overeat, and what I've seen in my lifetime, people who eat a lot, I've noticed that for the most part, they don't do anything else. And then when you have people who are like drinkers, who are like druggers or whatever, it's like they pick their poison, if you will. So what Luther was saying was, his thing is he does the food. Food is his thing. He loves food, and he talked about that part. I thought that was kind of important because I think it may kind of go hand in hand with the fact that he couldn't really be truly who he was. Maybe he was eating because of that as well. Imagine not being able to live your truth. That can't be easy to have to like live a secret like that for your life, and then it's like you're living a double life. And yeah, that's probably not uncomfortable to not be able to be authentically yourself. So that may have contributed to his eating habits. The eating habits did cause him a lot of health problems, unfortunately. And of course, if you get to a certain weight, eventually it's going to take a toll on your health for sure. So that was something else that he dealt with. Another thing, let me see, what was the other thing? The last thing I wanted to talk about here. I'm going to wrap this video up soon because it's getting kind of long. Let's see, the college. I didn't know that he had gone to college, and then ended up. So they talked about him going to college, which the whole college thing, I wouldn't say that it's like a shocker, but I thought it was, what I thought about the college thing, I thought it was actually kind of cool that he actually ventured off and went to college, but ultimately decided that, listen, music is my passion. And that takes me back to him being from New York, and, like his mom being from, I don't know if she was from New York, but, she lived in New York, and it just like, the faster lifestyle, the city life, just be a little bit more of an open mind, because I feel like he was saying that his mom was okay, his mom was okay with him, leaving school and going and pursuing the music. Maybe if she was from a small town in Idaho or a small town in the South, she may have said, no, you're going to finish your school and, blah, 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 then you can do it. I feel like that whole New York lifestyle, being in New York, in my head, it's like, oh, the New Yorkers, they're just like a little bit more open-minded and can see, was able to see far enough out to see that her son was so talented and that he did have a chance in making it in music, if you will. I don't know. I mean, she could have said the same thing if she was from a small town. Who knows? But I don't know. In my head, I was thinking, oh, that another kudos for her, and another reason why I feel like them being from New York made sense, to me as to how he got to where he is. But anyway, so Luther, he ended up deciding in his head. Isn't it funny how like his God-given talent that he had, is like, he knew and he believed enough in himself to say, nah, I'm going to stick with this. And if this doesn't work, I'm going to work harder on this, but I'm going to make this work, kind of thing. I think that is so amazing to have a talent. Like, I always look up to people who have those talents and they actually believe in themselves and they actually pursue the talent and they run with it. I think that is so beautiful. it's just beautiful to me to be able to live your life and do exactly what you were put here to do, and you get to fulfill your life's dreams. There's nothing like it. I mean, how many people get to do that? And I think it's so risky, but it's so worth the risk when you actually have true talent like he did. And look where it got him. He, like I said, I had no idea. He was an amazing producer, writer. He actually wrote for others. He wrote his music. I had no idea all this stuff about him, and it was just, like I said, it was just an amazing, amazing, amazing documentary. And for me, I am a person who loves, loves, loves listening to music that comes from talented people. And Luther Vandross was, I think he was one of a kind. I don't think there is, when you hear his voice, it's his voice. I don't think there's anyone else that's similar to Luther Vandross, if you will. I think we have other great R&B singers, soul singers, but I do think he was one of a kind. I really do. And I think he will forever be remembered for his music, and the legacy that he left, would be his voice, his talents, and the songs that live on forever. His songs are timeless. There's so many beautiful, beautiful songs. Even the song that I said that wasn't my favorite, Dance with Your Father, it's a beautiful song. It's just like, not just because I said it's not my favorite. It's still a beautiful song. It's so well written. The meaning behind it is amazing, and he talks about that in the documentary. And I just can't say enough about the man. I think he's extremely talented, and I think what he set out to do. I think he did it. I think he excelled in what he set out to do. I think he did above and beyond what he set out to do. And I feel that against all of the odds that he had in front of him, he knocked them down, and I think that's amazing, and it's so inspiring. Anyway, guys, I'm going to close out this video, and until next time, don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe. Peace.